This is a freebie for all you Tyson Fury fans out there, just to show you what a nice guy I am, just to show you how much I care about you. I uploaded this audio to my Patreon page roughly 23 hours ago. You can see it says that here, and the current time in the UK is, let me just check, 29 minutes past midnight on Saturday, the 6th of April. So I recorded the Patreon post and uploaded it to Patreon roughly 23 hours before this time. So it would have been, what, 1 a.m. or something on Friday, the 5th of April UK time. So in this audio you're about to hear, I'm responding to some of the comments that were left on the previous YouTube video I did about Tyson Fury, where I was talking about Steve Cunningham and what have you, because some of the people in the comments were predicting that Tyson Fury will blast Alexander Usyk out early. He'll just deal with him with no problem whatsoever. I'm responding to all that in this particular audio that you're about to hear. So enjoy my response and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Now, I'm the first person to tell you that anything can happen in heavyweight boxing. I've been around long enough to know that when very big men start throwing big punches in those tiny little gloves, strange things can occur, things that you absolutely do not expect. Be that as it may, when you're making a prediction for a fight, unless you're a fanboy, that is, what I'm about to say doesn't apply to fanboys, because fanboys are always going to pick their favorite fighter to win, regardless of any track record or anything like that. They're going to pick their favorite fighter to win based on their undying love for them. That's it. It isn't based on anything rational. So I disregard the predictions of fanboys. But if you're not a fanboy, then surely you're going to base your prediction on what seems most probable after you've looked at the track record of both fighters and their recent form. And so regarding the Usyk Fury fight, again, if you're not a fanboy, but you're picking Tyson Fury to win, maybe you think it's going to be a real tough struggle, but Fury gets a close decision, or he manages to bite down in his gum shield and fight through some tough rounds and stop Usyk late. If you're making that kind of prediction, cool. I got no problem with that. I can see why you would think that. But if you're one of these people, and I've seen a couple of them in the comment section of my recent videos about Usyk Fury. If you're one of these people saying that Tyson Fury is going to walk through Usyk in a couple rounds, what exactly is that based on? Because Tyson Fury doesn't have a track record of walking through people in a couple rounds. He just doesn't. The last guy that Tyson Fury stopped early was Tom Schwartz. Now, Tom Schwartz is a German fighter. If he was British, he wouldn't even win a British title. I'm not even sure he'd win an English title. That's the last guy that Tyson Fury stopped early in a fight. The last guy he just walked through. You can go back further in Tyson Fury's career. Tell me how many people that Tyson Fury stops early. He's not that kind of fighter and never has been. Lennox Lewis wasn't an early round knockout specialist, but he at least had some track record of knocking good quality fighters out early. So for example, in the WBC final eliminator that he had with Razor Ruddock, he got him out of there in 2 rounds. Nobody did that to Razor Ruddock before or since, stopping him that early. Mike Tyson didn't do it. Tommy Morrison stopped him years later, but it was a much longer fight. So Lewis blasted Ruddock out in 2 rounds. He blasted out Andrew Golota in 1 round. I think that was 90 seconds. And that was after Golota was coming off those 2 fights with Riddick Bowe, where he beat the living daylights out of Bowe. Golota was one of the top heavyweights in the world at the time. Lewis just walked straight through him. He also walked through Michael Grant, who was an unbeaten American contender at the time, blitzed him in 2 rounds. So again, Lewis wasn't an early round knockout specialist, but he at least has some track record of walking through quality fighters early in fights. Tyson Fury doesn't have that track record at all. He's never walked through a quality fighter in a couple rounds in his whole career. He doesn't have a Lewis versus Ruddock performance or Lewis versus Golota performance on his record. That's not to say Tyson Fury isn't a very good fighter. He is. But he's not that kind of fighter. And we don't even need to talk about Mike Tyson, who absolutely was an early round knockout specialist. Even Shannon Briggs back in the day. Shannon Briggs, last I checked, has more first round knockouts than any former world heavyweight champion in history. Shannon Briggs. Now, of course, Tyson Fury has stopped people, but his stoppages tend to be either in the mid rounds or the late rounds. He stopped Dillian Whyte in the mid rounds. He stopped Derek Chisora in the very late rounds in the 2nd and 3rd fights they had. He stopped Deontay Wilder in the mid rounds in the 2nd fight, and then in the late rounds in their trilogy fight. And bear in mind, Deontay Wilder and Dillian Whyte are not in the same universe as Alexander Usyk in terms of footwork, foot speed, coordination, boxing skills, and most importantly, defense. Neither one of them has got even close to the level of defense that Alexander Usyk has. So if he's only stopping Deontay Wilder late last time they fought, Dillian Whyte middle rounds, Derek Chisora late rounds, these guys who don't have even close to the level of defense or skill or footwork or counter-punching ability that Usyk has, then this idea he's just going to walk through Usyk in a couple rounds, I don't know, 3-4 rounds. What is it based on exactly? The closest thing that Tyson Fury has fought to Usyk, perhaps in his whole career stylistically, would be Otto Wallin. Now, obviously, Otto Wallin, at best, would be a pound shop version of Usyk. His fight with AJ showed that. Usyk beat the brakes off AJ twice, but look what AJ did to Wallin. So again, Wallin, no disrespect, is the cheapest knockoff version of Usyk you could imagine. Tyson Fury fought him several years ago when he was younger, fresher, and lighter than he is now. Tyson Fury got hit with a left hand to the eye in that fight in the second round and got cut badly. So the man who's supposed to have this incredible defense where you can't hit him with a bag of rice, he's getting hit with clean left hands in the second round by Otto Wallin. And once Tyson Fury received that cut, he went all out, hell for leather, trying to stop Otto Wallin. That's what Tyson Fury did. The fight's up on YouTube. I'm not making anything up. Tyson Fury tried for the remainder of that fight to knock Otto Wallin out. He threw everything but the kitchen sink at him, trying to get him out of there, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't even drop him. So I'm looking at Tyson Fury's track record here. If this guy is this amazing offensive force who's going to blast Usyk out in 3-4 rounds, what in his career has led you to believe that? I'm a logical person, folks. Again, anything can happen in heavyweight boxing, but if we're going off the careers and the track records of both fighters, what makes you believe that Fury's just going to go out there and walk through Usyk? He fought, what was it, a 35-year-old Steve Cunningham who had a lot of miles on the clock, who'd had a lot of tough fights, a lot of wear and tear. He fought a 35-year-old Steve Cunningham many years ago when Fury was in his early 20s, way fresher than he is now. And he couldn't walk through Cunningham in a couple of rounds. He got dropped in that fight and was having all sorts of problems and admitted that that was the toughest opponent of his career. He had to lean all over Cunningham, hit and hold, and use a lot of rough tactics to get control of the fight and eventually knock the guy out. That was over 10 years ago. If you think that Steve Cunningham is as good a boxer or better boxer than Alexander Usyk, what are you basing that on? It can't be on their records. Based on record, Alexander Usyk is the greatest cruiserweight of all time. The only person even in the argument would be Evander Holyfield. Nobody else is in the argument. Steve Cunningham doesn't have a resume even close to Usyk's resume. And he's certainly never had the success at heavyweight that Usyk has gone on to have. And you look at the styles of Cunningham compared to Usyk. Cunningham was a very athletic fighter, yes. Quick feet, pretty quick hands, but he had less dimensions to him than Usyk. He didn't have Usyk's head movement. His footwork wasn't as complex as Usyk's footwork. He wasn't as good a combination puncher. He wasn't as good a counter puncher as Usyk is. There are some great slow-mo clips that I've seen recently online, on Instagram, and I'm sure they're on YouTube as well, of Usyk countering Anthony Joshua with combinations. AJ, who is pretty fast for a big man, comes in with these power shots. Usyk stays in the pocket with him, moves his head to avoid the power shots, and then comes back and lights AJ up with like 3-4 punches in the blink of an eye. I'm telling you that Anthony Joshua, on the front foot, when he's unloading his heavy artillery, is more formidable than Tyson Fury when he's doing that. Fury's better than Joshua in certain areas, of course. But when it comes to unloading combinations on the front foot, that's one area where AJ's superior to Tyson Fury. Despite that, Usyk was able to stand right there when AJ's unloading all these combinations. The type of combinations that flattened Francis Ngannou, that stopped Otto Wallin, that did in Vladimir Klitschko, that knocked out Dillian Whyte. Those combinations put Andy Ruiz on the floor in their first fight. Those same combinations, Usyk's able to stand right there and he's not getting hit with anything clean. He stands right there, moves his head, and comes back instantly with combinations. Do you understand the level of defense this guy has displayed throughout his career, despite giving away enormous amounts of weight at heavyweight to his opponents? Usyk has never been floored with a head punch. You've got the controversy about the low blow against Daniel Dubois, some people saying it was a legit body shot, other people saying not. Regardless of what you think of that, tell me when Alexander Usyk has ever been down from a head punch, heavyweight or cruiserweight. It hasn't happened, certainly not as a professional. And he's been in with lots of big punches, It's not like they've been keeping this guy away from punches his whole career, is it? He's fought loads of big punchers. And yet nobody's ever put him down with a headshot. How many times has Tyson Fury been down? What, 7 times? AJ's been down like 4 times. Daniel Dubois been down 2 or 3 times. Joe Joyce has been down. Are you getting the picture yet? Usyk is criminally underrated. It's an incredible thing given his resume and what he's achieved. But people talk about him like he's an afterthought or something. Like he hasn't done the things that he's actually done. Like he's some type of aberration. No, he's not an aberration. Usyk is the real deal. Usyk schooled Anthony Joshua twice. Beat the brakes off him. All these people saying the second fight was close. Are you having a laugh? The disrespect for Usyk is so deep that after AJ knocked out Ngannou, they're saying, oh, this version of AJ would destroy Usyk. What planet are we living on, people? Ngannou was a guy who'd never had a boxing match before. And because AJ destroyed him, as he's supposed to, you turn around and say, oh, he'd beat Usyk now, based on beating a guy who had never boxed before prior to the Tyson Fury fight. I mean, this stuff amazes me. So anyway, point is, if you're a fanboy, I don't care about your prediction. AJ fanboys are always going to pick AJ. Fury fanboys are always going to pick Fury based on undying love. It's got nothing to do with any objective analysis. But for those of you who are not fanboys, but you genuinely think Fury's just going to go in there and just wipe Usyk out in 3-4 rounds, appeal to my logic, because I'm a logical man. What are you basing that prediction on? I haven't seen anything in Fury's history to make me think that that's likely, nor in Usyk's history. Now, some people might say, well, the cat's out the bag now as far as Usyk's vulnerability to the body. Well, you may notice that when Usyk got off the floor against Daniel Dubois, Dubois was trying to hit him with that same shot to the body, and guess what? It didn't land. Not only did it not land because Usyk clearly made an adjustment, but in targeting Usyk's body, Daniel Dubois was leaving himself more vulnerable to the head, and Usyk was starting to take advantage of it, and he stopped Daniel Dubois. I'm telling you now that Tyson Fury doesn't hit like Daniel Dubois. I know Tyson Fury fanboys want to believe that he's the best at everything. He's the fastest heavyweight, he's got the highest IQ, he hits the hardest, he's got the best chin, he's got the biggest heart, he's best combination. I mean, they literally think this guy does everything better than everyone. It's so delusional, it's unreal. No, Tyson Fury doesn't hit as hard as Daniel Dubois. Furthermore, he's a much taller fighter with longer arms than Dubois. He's looking down at Usyk. The trajectory of his punches is different than Dubois' punches, meaning he'll be punching down at Usyk, so it's not so easy to catch him in the body. Tyson Fury's power punches are not as sharp as Dubois' power punches. Don't get it twisted, Tyson Fury's a better fighter all round than Daniel Dubois. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying here. But there are certain things that Dubois does that are actually better than Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury's never been an amazing body puncher. So while anything can happen in heavyweight boxing, I'm looking for signs in Tyson Fury's career, history in his career, that would indicate he'd be able to do something like that to Usyk, or that it would be likely for him to do something like that to Usyk. And I just don't see it. I see this as a long fight. And this might sound sacrilegious to Fury fans, but I wouldn't at all be shocked if Tyson Fury goes down in this fight. I mean, why not? Cunningham dropped him years ago. Nevin Pajkic dropped him. You telling me that Usyk can't hit as hard as Nevin Pajkic? If Usyk lands 3-4 clean shots on Tyson Fury in quick succession, Tyson Fury's going down. Now, his track record shows that he gets up, but you still don't want to be getting knocked down when you're in there against a boxer as elite as Alexander Usyk. You don't want to be giving away 10-8 rounds. I want someone to explain to me what this idea that Fury's going to have an easy night with Usyk is actually based on when you look at their track records. Because I can't see any basis for it. Fury doesn't stop people like that early. When he's in there against mobile guys, the last guy who had a bit of mobility about him was Otto Wallin, and that fight went the distance when Fury was a much younger and fresher man. He threw everything at Wallin and couldn't get him out of there. The guy that AJ disposed of in 5 rounds, was it? 4-5 rounds? Just to add some context regarding Fury's offensive capabilities. And I'm not saying that AJ beats Fury, by the way. I know a lot of people jumped on that as soon as AJ beat Ngannou. Styles make fights. All I'm telling you is that Tyson Fury hasn't shown in his career that his offensive capabilities, his attacking capabilities are better than AJ's. His fluidity is better. His boxing brain has proven to be better. His recovery powers have proven to be better. His confidence levels, I think, are naturally higher. But in terms of just all-out offensive ability, no, Tyson Fury doesn't have better power punch combinations than AJ does. He just doesn't. He's got better stamina. But in terms of the all-out attack, no, AJ's better in that regard. Surely you saw that from the Wallin fight that AJ had and the Wallin fight that Fury had. Surely you saw that when AJ fought Ngannou compared to Fury, who just fought Ngannou. Again, I'm going off the track records of the fighters, folks. One of the things I think has happened with Tyson Fury with regards to American fans, and I think by osmosis, a lot of British fans who aren't necessarily Fury fanboys, but they're affected by the psychology of what I'm about to describe. For many decades, the United States was the epicenter of boxing. The vast majority of top fighters were American fighters. That dynamic has been changing over the past couple of decades. But the mentality of the American public, the perception of the American public, hasn't yet caught up to those changes. The heavyweight division being a prime example. European heavyweights have basically been dominating the heavyweight division for what? The best part of 30 years now. From Lennox Lewis to the Klitschko brothers, to Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, and now Alexander Usyk. It's all European heavyweights. But incredibly, the American public all this time have still had this mindset of, well, unless you've been to America to be our top heavyweights, then you can't be any good. Their mindset is you need to go over to America to prove yourself if you're a heavyweight. When the reality is literally the opposite. As an American heavyweight, if you're going to prove yourself, you've got to go and fight the British heavyweights or the European heavyweight, Usyk, etc. Back in the days, it would have been the Klitschkos. So their mentality hasn't caught up to the reality of the situation. Tyson Fury understood this when he went over to fight Deontay Wilder. Remember, Tyson Fury could have fought Anthony Joshua for the heavyweight title when he came back in 2018 for a lot more money than he got to fight Deontay Wilder. He admitted that himself, that he was offered way more money to fight Anthony Joshua than he was offered to fight Deontay Wilder, but he didn't take the Joshua fight then. He fought Wilder instead. The only way that makes sense is if Tyson Fury thought that Wilder was an easier fight. That's the only way that makes sense. Tyson Fury bamboozled the American public. He took advantage of their misperception about the dynamics of heavyweight boxing. Every major fighter is overrated by their fans. AJ is overrated by his fanboys. Fury is overrated by his fanboys. Canelo is overrated by Canelo fanboys. That's not to say that those fighters aren't good. Of course, they're all fantastic fighters. It's just that their fans go overboard with how highly they rate them. But with Tyson Fury specifically, he took advantage of the misperception that American boxing fans had about the dynamics of heavyweight boxing. This idea that you need to go to America to prove yourself or you're no good. He beat up Deontay Wilder, a guy who always had primitive boxing skills. Massive heart, a lot of power, but terrible skills. Fury overhyped Wilder. He overhyped himself. And he underrated and downplayed Anthony Joshua at the same time. He bamboozled everybody, of course with the assistance of Frank Warren, his promoter, and the machine behind PBC, who were hyping up Wilder. They bamboozled the American boxing public. They tricked you. You fell for it. And the penny only started to drop with some American boxing fans, particularly professional boxers. The penny only started to drop that they've maybe been overrating Fury a bit after AJ knocked out Ngannou. Because after the Fury and Ngannou fight, what they should have been saying at that point is, wow, Fury's not as good as I thought he was. But they weren't doing that, were they? Most American boxing fans were saying, wow, Ngannou's a beast. He would destroy Anthony Joshua. He might even beat Usyk. That's literally what they were saying. I saw him in the comments of my videos. That's what they were saying online, in their own videos. It's not what I was saying though, was it? What was I saying? I was saying Anthony Joshua beats Ngannou no problem at all. Comfortably. This is not a difficult fight for AJ. This is a novelty fight where AJ is going to have no problems at all. Because my perception was far closer to the reality than that of most American boxing fans. And a lot of British boxing fans too. But mostly Americans because, again, their perception was so thrown off by the Fury-Wilder fights and the narrative that Fury created and PBC created, which they all bought into, which they all fell for. That Fury and Wilder were head and shoulders above every heavyweight in the world. And that Anthony Joshua was just a con job, a hype job, no good at all. Wilder would chin him in around. Fury kept peddling this idea that nobody outside of himself could beat Deontay Wilder. The reality is Wilder has a horrible resume in terms of wins. Anthony Joshua's resume was always way better than Wilder's resume was. The whole way through their careers. But Fury managed to bamboozle you American fans into thinking he was much better than he actually was and that Wilder was better than he actually was. So anyway, you should have been saying to yourselves after Fury and Ngannou, wow, Fury's maybe not as good as I thought he was, but you weren't saying that. Instead, you were saying Ngannou's a beast and he's going to destroy everybody other than Fury. I was saying, no, he's not. Fury didn't train like he should have trained. And also, Fury's not quite as good as you thought he was. Styles make fights. And Anthony Joshua's style is far worse for Ngannou than Fury's style was. Because Anthony Joshua is a much sharper counterpuncher than Tyson Fury. He's not as fluid. He don't have as good a chin. He don't have as good a stamina. He's not as good on the back foot as Fury is. Of course, there are lots of things that Fury does better than Anthony Joshua. But in terms of counterpunching with power shots, AJ's better than Fury in that area. And I looked at Ngannou's guard, his defense against Fury, and the way Fury was able to land right hands on him, and I was like, oh dear. He's going to have serious problems when AJ starts hitting him with them power shots as counters. Serious problems. And unless he's got an iron chin, and I didn't know whether he did or not, but I said pre-fight, unless this guy's got an iron chin, I don't see him going the distance against Anthony Joshua if AJ's landing consistently, because he's far too open to AJ's power shots. To me, it was clear as day, but to American boxing fans, you just couldn't see it. You were bamboozled by the Gypsy King. And so there were residual effects of that misperception that American boxing fans had, which made their way to the United Kingdom. Because a lot of British boxing fans still, and certainly a lot of British boxing pundits, take their lead from whatever narrative is being pushed in America. And this is a legacy of the old days when America did dominate heavyweight boxing. And so many of them started to believe, oh, well, Fury's obviously head and shoulders above everybody. Destroys Usyk. I mean, that's a foregone conclusion. AJ, you're probably dooming around. It's not until AJ beat Ngannou that these people have actually come to any type of sense. Then they were like, but that sense still hasn't reached them regarding Usyk. It's the strangest thing. Now they say, oh, well, perhaps AJ's got a chance against Fury, but Usyk's still got no chance. You know, the Simon Jordans of the world and Spencer Oliver and, oh God, the worst is Billy Nelson. Dear, oh dear. Is he on the Fury payroll? I'm not aware of him being, but the way Billy Nelson waxes lyrical about Tyson Fury, honestly, I just shake my head. Because again, I'm looking at Tyson Fury's track record. I'm not buying into hype. I'm looking at what he's actually done, the way he fights, the way he's dealt with opponents in the past. Tyson Fury's not some wrecking machine. He's a very good boxer, yes. He's not feather-fisted by any means, but, the way they talk about him just handling Usyk with ease. Anything's possible in heavyweight boxing, but I just don't know what it's based on. I haven't seen anything in Fury's career that would make that likely. And the funniest thing of all is if Tyson Fury actually believed that himself, then he wouldn't be as stressed out as he is. Screaming and shouting at the press conference with Usyk, being way more aggressive and agitated than we've ever seen him before. If Fury was as confident of beating Usyk with ease as the likes of Billy Nelson and all these other people, he wouldn't be behaving like that. He wouldn't be training as maniacally as he is. Clearly, he's much lighter now than he was for the Ngannou fight. Certainly less body fat, maybe more muscle, less fat, whatever. Clearly in better shape aesthetically. Well, if Usyk was an easier fight than Ngannou, which is what Tyson Fury said, and his dad, they were both saying that Ngannou's a tougher fight than Usyk. That's a fact. Well, if that was the case, then why is he training much harder for Usyk than he did for Ngannou? And again, this goes back to what I said previously about Fury fans having no problem with Tyson Fury's lies. What's all that about? So I certainly expect Tyson Fury will be in the fight of his life against Alexander Usyk. He's in for an absolutely torrid time. That is what their track records has led me to conclude. If you think it's going to be an easy fight for Tyson Fury, again, if you're not a fanboy, appeal to my logic, explain to me why. What has Fury done in his career that would lead you to that conclusion? Surely you're not going to bring up the Wilder fights, a guy who isn't in the same universe as Alexander Usyk in terms of defense, footwork, counter-punching ability, coordination, balance. He's not in the same universe as him. Talking about the Wilder fights in the run-up to Usyk Fury as a measure of how Fury's going to do against Usyk is just virtually irrelevant because they're nothing like each other stylistically. And Usyk is just light years above Wilder in terms of skills and technique. Up until Fury pulled out a few weeks ago, I saw this as a 50-50 fight. I don't see this as a 50-50 fight anymore. I see it as maybe 60-40 now. And again, I'll explain why in my updated new prediction. So anyway, just wanted to touch on this subject because I do find the perception people have interesting and baffling at times, because I like to go off logic and analyze the fighters' careers and their form and the way they've matched up against other styles and how long their fights tend to go and so on and so forth. The notion that Fury's just going to walk through Usyk in a couple rounds, what is it based on? I'll leave it there.